I can't be my best self and I can't be the best mom or the best wife or the best doctor if I'm not taking care of me. I've I noticed that. I thought at the beginning, like, it's okay. I'll put it on the I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Like, they're my priority. I have to get this done for them. And you're breastfeeding and you're pumping and you're you're doing all the things. And I I noticed that even just doing 15 minutes of maybe just like light, weightlifting or walking, like I was saying before, it made the biggest difference in how I operated in my day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the NOOCI Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Tan. In this episode, I sat down with Rebecca Hopkins, a chiropractor and wellness educator whose work centers on helping patients understand why their bodies hold so much tension and what we can do about it. We talked about why stress shows up in the neck, shoulders, and posture, how emotional and physical stress are deeply connected, and why so many people normalize feeling exhausted, tight, or even uncomfortable in their bodies. Rebecca also shares her perspective on movement as medicine, the role of posture and sleep in long-term health, and how even small daily habits can create meaningful shifts in how we feel. This conversation is a reminder that your body isn't failing you. It's protecting you, and with the right support, awareness, and care, you can begin to feel lighter, more mobile, and more at ease again. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So, I've been noticing a lot of women in my life have been sort of complaining about their necks, their shoulders, and just holding this sort of tension. And I really wanted to talk to you about this and understand what's happening inside of our bodies that, when we live in a constant state of tension, why do our bodies hold so much tension?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's so common. And I think what's really important to note is that our bodies are wired for protection. So they're wired to protect us from harm. And what's interesting with the body is that it doesn't necessarily know what's emotional and what's physical, what's like an emotional stressor or a physical stressor. So it doesn't necessarily know how to distinguish the difference between it. So it braces, it guards, it tightens. And then, of course, you get those common symptoms or those common physical symptoms that you see, like shoulders lift, shortness of breath. Maybe you have like a poor posture, anterior head carriage. And over time, that protective state becomes like your default, your body's default, your normal. So I think a lot of people think, oh my God, I messed up. I'm not functioning properly. But really, what's going on is your body is trying to keep you safe. And it's just, that's just what it is.
Right. Okay. So basically, because your body is in that state of tension, it just like it shows up on the physical side, right? And so when people come to you, what do you tell people?
So we look at so many, when I do an assessment or an evaluation in a patient, we look at so many different factors. So aside from the physical things, the orthopedic testing that I do to see what's going on with your spine, what muscles are tight, where's the imbalance, and where we're physically going to treat you, I also look at like life stressors, like what's your stress level? Do you do any activity, any exercise? Do you have a bunch of toddlers running around in your house? Like I just look at the whole picture, and this way we can kind of treat them. Yes, I treat them in my office, but I can counsel them or give them advice on, okay, maybe we need to bring down stress, or maybe we need to manage, like, create an exercise program for you. So, because we all know that movement is heals the body. So there's just so many factors that we look at, but it definitely is a whole body, whole picture perspective or look on treatment.
Mhm, mhm. And I think a lot of us don't realize that, right? I think that you think it's probably like one thing, right? And I think that with us with devices and such, right? Like with the phone. I mean, nowadays people are just like constantly on their phone, whether it's like crossing the road or like waiting in the lift. Like, what are sort of what does the phone, something like that do in your daily life?
Yeah. So there's so many things, but physically what the phone's doing is you're essentially looking down so much. Unless you're someone, and this is very rare. I'm very critical, but this is just because I've studied this. I'm critical when I'm watching people. I really am analyzing your posture and like how you're sitting because it tells me a lot about your body. And for like phone usage or being on a computer, most of the time you're looking down or your gaze is forward. And you don't necessarily have perfect posture when you're doing those things. So that adds a lot of unnecessary stress and tension on the spine, which is not normal. We're not meant to carry that much weight or stress. And every time your head goes forward or your neck goes forward, it's adding more weight on the shoulders, on the neck. And that can cause things like, early onset arthritis or, a lot of stiffness and a lot of tension in the neck, especially in the front of the neck. So those phones, I mean, they're a part of our life, but we have to be able to like check out, put it down, take a break. And that's why I always preach like movement is so important because that will really help heal the body from that added stress that we go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, movement, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. What are you telling your patients to do? What sort of movement? Because in our lives, we're always thinking about doing things that are like impactful, right? Like how do you make the most out of it, right? And so walk me through a little bit about movement.
Yeah, it's funny because people think like, oh, it's like has to be this intense like resistance training, Pilates, CrossFit type of movement, but research shows that just walking 30 to 45 minutes a day at a normal pace, maybe 75%, um, is really healthy for the body and actually has so many health benefits that we don't even realize. We think like, oh, we got to be lifting like the heavy weights or doing, what everyone else is doing, but really just incorporating walking and how many people don't even walk or set aside time to, like, walk or move their body in that way. Of course, resistance training, I'm a big fan of, so we'll look at, like, if some patients have a lot of knee pain or shoulder pain, what's going on around the joint where we can maybe add some strength, stability, flexibility, mobility to help protect the joints from early degeneration, from pain, from injury, and things like that. So it's not anything that's specific. Mind you, when I see patients, depending on the condition they're seeing me for, I will prescribe exercises and exercises that help to heal that specific condition. But when it comes to overall just movement, my first recommendation is just walk every day if you can. And try and hit a goal. Like, for example, if you set like 10,000 steps, like try and reach that every single day. I have a watch that I use. I have the Garmin and I love it because it tracks all that stuff. But yeah, it's just as simple as just walking.
Yeah, and I love that. I think so many of us don't realize until I mean, for myself, I never realized I basically didn't walk much until I started tracking my steps. And then you realize that, even getting, I mean, I have to start my day with like maybe like going on a walk. If I don't do that, I really don't get any steps in, which is crazy. But it really is being sort of conscious about, I think that is so important.
Understanding what movement is doing for you and how it's healing your body, not just for the day or the week, but longevity in your life. And if you look at there's a documentary I recently watched, and it was called Centurion, I think. So it was a study of why in specific areas in the world people are living until they're over 100 years old and there's no illness or ailments. The one thing it came down to in all areas is their lifestyle and that it wasn't sedentary. They were moving all the time. So if they were going to the grocery store, they were walking there. If they were going to work, walk to work. If they, everything is uphill. So if you look at like Europe or Italy and those areas specifically, those people are living. And not only men or women, it's both genders are living until well over 100. So it was just a really interesting, and if you haven't seen it, it's an amazing way to understand that our lifestyle here, like in North America, let's say, is very sedentary, and we have to intentionally put movement or schedule movement into our days. If not, like you said, you're not doing it at all, which is so detrimental to our health.
That's true. I think so. And like for people going into the office, I was just talking about, I was like, maybe I should have like a walking pad or something because sometimes, you're just like, you know, car to your destination and then you're there and then you just car back. And unless you're like intentionally like doing a walk or going to the gym, you just like don't get your steps in. So I've been intentionally trying to, do it in the morning after I drop my kids off on the bus. But even like simple exercises that you know, I was talking to my Chinese medicine practitioner. She was like just doing like some Tai Chi in the morning, like 10 minutes a day, right? And loosening sort of that, my upper body up. She was like, it just making some time to do that, like, will make a huge difference.
And I found it challenging for me once I had children to prioritize myself and my movement. And I've noticed a huge, you're busy, you have a newborn, I had a toddler, and it's just like they're my priority, and I'm trying to keep them alive, quote unquote. So I lost track of, and I've always prioritized exercise and movement. And having the kids kind of forced me in like away from that for better or for worse. And I've noticed a huge change just from the last 2, 3 years where I haven't been moving as much as I usually do in my health and my mood and my mental state and my productivity and
Yeah.
just all the things. It's really amazing.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
They are 1.5 and almost 3.
Wow. Yeah. I remember like when my kids are 4 and 6 now, but I remember when they were like 1 and 3, and it's just like, I really think I put myself on hold for them, like, and it's only now that I'm like getting back into things and like prioritizing myself. But I think a lot of women go through that. And yeah, like, what is your advice for that as you're going through it yourself?
I think for me, you have to prioritize it or else you're going to notice a huge for me, I just looked at it like I can't be my best self and I can't be the best mom or the best wife or the best doctor if I'm not taking care of me. I've I noticed that. I thought at the beginning like it's okay. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. They're my priority. I have to get this done for them. And you're breastfeeding and you're pumping and you're you're doing all the things. I mean, you know how it is. And I I noticed that even just doing 15 minutes of maybe just like light, weightlifting or walking, like I was saying before, it made the biggest difference in how I operated in my day. Just that little amount of time, even 10 minutes, even if I could just get 10 minutes of some kind of movement in, it made a huge difference in my day and just how I felt. And now having 2 toddlers, it's really hard not to lose your patience or snap or be like overstimulated or irritable. And when I work out, I notice a significant difference in just how I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women, you go around your daily life and you're thinking this tension and this exhaustion is just part of life, right? What do you tell women when they think that?
I see this so much with my patients. I treat a lot of women, moms in their 20s, 30s, close to maybe like mid 30s. And like you said, they're just like, well, like, I'm busy, I'm this, I'm that. And what's funny, the one moment when they realize that, wow, I didn't even understand how bad I was and how bad I felt until I got an adjustment. And the adjustment is so unique in the sense that you feel instant relief in the tension in your body. And you can significantly notice difference from when you walk into my office, I treat you, and then when you walk off the table. You notice like you feel the one thing that I hear so much is, oh my God, I feel like a new woman. I feel like a new person. And it's that like nervous system reset. It's that muscle balance that's happening. There's so many like physiological things happening in the body after a manipulation, after spinal manipulation. I recommend to patients if you can't necessarily move your body or like get in the gym or lift heavy weights, go see your chiropractor, go see a physical therapist, someone that can help you passively reset your body in that way because you'll notice a huge difference in how you function. Another thing I hear a lot is after the adjustment or after a treatment that the person had the best sleep of their life. And so if I can offer that to them, especially knowing me as a mom, like the lack of sleep I get and the lack of quality of sleep that I get, if I can have that impact on someone, on another woman, like I'm so happy because I know that's close to my heart. I know how that feels.
Yeah. I have to confession, I've never seen a chiropractor in my life. So I know so bad. But can you walk me through about for somebody like myself who's never been, walk me through that process and what do you do? And yeah.
So, first of all, like before you even book an appointment, I get so many different types of people that come to see me. So, for example, like I'll have my wellness patients who are really just interested and have this, fixation on like, I want to be my healthiest self. I want to be the best version of myself. I'm not necessarily in pain, but I want to know where I'm off or what I can fix or be proactive instead of reactive with my health.
Okay,
So
so it's that maintenance thing.
almost like a maintenance thing. And I have a handful of patients that I feel like that's a very particular type of person that wants to do that. And I'm someone that's like that where I'm like, I don't want to wait until I'm in pain to get treated or it's something that I can do consistently. And I always describe it to my patients. It's like going to the dentist, either yearly or every 6 months to get a cleaning. You could not do it. Like you could probably get away with not getting your teeth cleaned, but the state or quality of your teeth are not gonna be the best if
Yeah,
you don't.
not your best.
I don't recommend it. My sister's a dentist, so I don't recommend that. But there are people who don't go to the dentist, and because they're like, "Why would I go to I don't have pain, my teeth are fine, blah, blah, blah." Chiropractic is very similar. So I do get those patients that come in and they're like, I just wanna keep my nervous system and my spine healthy." And so they come in, maybe once a month, once every 3 months, sometimes once every 6 months. It just depends on the person. And then I have my pain patients. So they come in with posture issues, disc herniations, scoliosis, nerve pain, headaches, migraines, jaw pain, shoulder, any joint really, knee pain, a lot of hip. I see a lot of pregnant patients, so a lot of like around ligament pain and pelvic pain and things like that. So, depending on the type of patient, I will always do an evaluation and an assessment of the person. I'm big on orthopedic testing, so because that will kind of lead me towards what is the diagnosis, what's the person dealing with, so that I can create a curated treatment plan to help them specifically and what they're going through. And like I said before, we look at kind of everything, like your stress levels, your habits, your hobbies, your physical activity level, your nutrition even. What does your diet look like? And how inflamed are you with what you're eating and the lack of movement that you're doing? So it's very whole body. I'm looking at everything. And then I make my recommendation. I create a specific treatment plan for that patient and then make my recommendation on chiropractic care and go from there.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for explaining that to me. It sounds, I mean, so I get my you know, I get my regular acupuncture maintenance. So it sounds similar to that where it's really addressing like whole body. And I think when I see my acupuncturist, it's like when I first went, it was very specific. Like I went specifically for my nasal allergies. But then later on, it turned into like, oh, I'll just go for sort of that maintenance and making sure that I felt, good about just like, healthy, I think. Whereas really, really whole body. And, obviously in Chinese medicine, it's about like your diet, your movement, like all of that.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of practitioners that chiropractors specifically who actually get certified in acupuncture, dry needling. There's so many different techniques that we're like eligible to get a certification in and practice on patients. For myself, I was very interested in acupuncture, but just the timing of it all and where I ended up, I didn't end up doing the certification. There's a lot of patients who are actually like deathly afraid of needles. So um I feel like acupuncture is a very particular type of patient as well who doesn't mind doing needles and like, for the nasal, I'm sure they were doing needles like in your head and your face.
Yeah, I think definitely. So I'm really scared of needles, but I was also like, I really need this. And just closed my eyes. But I think the thought process of going through like somebody needling your face, once you get over that fear, it actually just feels good that you're doing something. But like it's so interesting. Actually, like right over here, like above your head, that doesn't hurt at all. It's just like the strange places like your knees, your feet, like you can feel that tingling. And that like always like makes me a little. nervous, but the end result feels so good. And I think that for chiropractor, like if people come in, as their first time, does it stress them out that it's the cracking? I think that thinking about that and a masseuse cracked my fingers, that makes me a little anxious.
I see a lot of first timers. So they've never been to another practitioner and I'm their first, experience. And I don't take that lightly. It's something that I will always be excited about because for me it's an opportunity to introduce them to the profession, to what we do, and not force anything on them. And just kind of present everything that I think that will help you, and it's on them or the decision that they wanna make to, maybe they're comfortable with getting their thoracic spine manipulated, but not their neck, and that's very common. The great thing about chiropractic is that you don't necessarily have to get it adjusted to have a positive result. So there are other techniques that we do that are not as quote, it's not aggressive, but not quote unquote as aggressive as a spinal manipulation. But what's funny is once I present everything to them, by the time we get to treating them, I know they're nervous. I know that it's not something that they necessarily want to do. But after explaining it to them and showing them the movement and how much movement is going to go in their neck and all of that stuff, just kind of like displaying the motion, they become super comfortable. And then they're like, you know what? Okay, let's try it. And then after that, they're hooked. Like they're like, that felt amazing and are very comfortable doing it again and again. So there are practitioners out there who are very forceful and are like, listen, this is going to help you. You need to get it done. And I'm not that. I will never force anyone to do anything they don't want to do, but I will present what I think is going to be beneficial for them and their health. And it's on them to, I think education is really important, like educating patients on what's happening, why we would do it, how it's going to look like, and then them making a decision on whether or not they
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. And in our bodies, I think you mentioned you see, you treat patients in their 20s, 30s, and, going in to 40s. And how does our body change over time? And what are the things that we need to do as we age?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it all comes down to, with the body over time, naturally, you're going to degenerate. Like you're going to start to have some arthritis, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a sign of aging. And I think a lot of people think that arthritis or degeneration is like this scary word. But for the most part, it's a part of our aging process. There's not a lot of research that shows that arthritis is connected to pain. So there are other things going on. Pain's super complex, but there are probably other things going on that are actually causing the physical pain that you're feeling, and not so much arthritis. So that's one of the things. I mean, we get a lack of motion, range of motion. I'm very big on mobility and making sure that people understand that our joints are meant to move and we have to put movement in them to restore movement in the joint, but also maintain proper movement in the joint. And when you start to get a lack of motion in your joint, that's when you start to get a lot of pain, a lot of issues, a lot of injuries, and things like that. So it all comes down to movement at a segmental in the spine level, but also in the joints and things like that. So I see a lot of like, limitations in range of motion and restrictions in, turning your neck and extension of the spine becomes limited and things like that. And that's just from number one, aging, but also our habits and how we,
Yeah.
sometimes how we sleep, how we stand, our lack of movement in the body causes a lot of the body is meant to move. And I always go back to movement because it's so important. Our bodies are made to move and they're meant to move. And the way that the joints stay healthy over time is with motion that is put through the body and through the joints. So with the motion, what happens is it tells the brain basically to nourish the joint and keep it healthy. But with a lack of motion, that's when the body thinks, okay, there's an injury there. We have to fuse it and we have to protect it. So that's why movement is so crucial in how we age because it's basically telling your body, okay, you're well or you're not well. And there's an injury or there's no injury and everything is fine. So those are the main things that I see in my office. And I mean, my oldest patient was or is 90 something years old. So there's no you can't come into a chiropractor because you're that old or that young. I treat newborns. So there's it's a very wide variety of people that we treat.
Amazing. And let's talk a little bit about sleep. You touched upon this. Nowadays, I think sleep is at the forefront of everybody's mind, but we're all having issues with whether it's falling asleep, staying asleep. What do you tell your patients that, because sleep is really the time you sort of, heal, regenerate, and it's one of the core things to, I think, your health, right? There's so many things you can do, but like having good sleep and having good rest is so important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What the conversation I have around sleep with my patients is, if you wanna see the best results in treatment and you wanna heal properly, you have to sleep. You have to recover. If you're not sleeping, then your body is not in a good state to recover like it should. So, sleep is very important. I mean, I think minimum we should be getting 8 hours of restful sleep. I know that's very hard these days, and I know a lot of people are very busy and, like, their life doesn't permit them to, but as many restful hours as you can get is the best. I think a lot of people are also in pain while they sleep, so they don't get much good sleep. So that's why one of the things when I treat patients, they're like, "Oh my god, I had the best sleep of my life." After treatment, that's another factor that plays a role in the quality of your sleep. So not only sleeping that long, but how is your sleep? Like, are you really getting good sleep? Are you getting into your REM sleep? So yeah, so we have all those conversations, but I think it is one of the most crucial parts of healing. It could be the difference of you seeing really good results in your treatment versus not seeing the best results. Just like movement, like how I tell patients, you have to do the work at home. Like, we are doing what we can here, but it doesn't stop here. What are you doing at home? What are your habits? Are you moving your body? Are you doing the exercises that we prescribe to you? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? There's so, like, it just all plays a role in how the body heals.
Yeah. And I think you talked a little bit about like your posture during sleep, right? Tell me a little bit about that because I don't think I've thought about it. I, ever since I, was pregnant with two kids, I've noticed like for myself, it's like my lower back, right? Sometimes I'll feel like, oh, I had the best sleep, but then I'll wake up and like my lower back just seems a little bit off, or it's like and not in pain, but it's achy. Like, so yeah, what are your what do you tell people about posture and sleep? Because I don't think I have the best sleep posture.
Yeah, I think sleep hygiene is dependent. I mean, there are, of course, your preferred positions that you're sleeping in. So side and back are the two better positions than being on your stomach. So I always recommend, like, if patients are sleeping on their stomach and they have really bad neck pain, really bad back pain, you got to stop. Like, you have to try and either go on your back or on your side. Those are the best positions. But then there are ways that, like, when you're sleeping on your back or on your side, to really promote proper alignment in the spine when you're sleeping. So, for example, like, even if you're on your side, which is a better position, but you're all twisted up and your hips are uneven, and maybe you don't have the best mattress for your spine, then you're going to wake up in pain, of course. So, and usually when patients wake up in pain, there's something going on in their sleep, because typically if you're resting, you should wake up feeling really good. Like, you should have no pain because you're resting all night. But if you are waking up with pain, it kind of makes me think something's going on in your sleep that's causing you to wake up like that. So I always recommend side, back, and then there are ways that you can use your pillows to your advantage. So if you are on your side, you really want to make sure that you're filling the gap between the mattress, so the shoulder, and all the way up into your neck. So I have a lot of patients who are like, "Oh, I just use one pillow on my side." And that's not enough because we need to be filling that whole space. So you might need to split your pillow in half or to have 2 or 3 pillows to be able to maintain proper spinal alignment. So you don't want this going on, where your ear is close to your shoulder or too far away. Same thing with the low back. You wanna make sure that there's a pillow between your knee and your ankles so that you're keeping your hips in alignment.
Mhm.
There's a way to I always recommend to patients, like, take a picture, like, have someone take a picture of how you would typically lay or fall asleep, and then from there, they'll bring me a photo, and we can kinda analyze what's going on, and I can give my recommendations on, like, where to put a pillow, um, and whatnot.
Okay. That's really helpful. I think that, yeah, we don't think about
the way you sleep enough. And I think, especially for, moms, right? Like my kids love to come in, snuggle at night, or like, and then it's like one and then two. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to fall off the bed.
Yeah, that's us every night. But we're just trying to embrace that because we know it's not forever. We definitely don't get the our quality of sleep is definitely not great right now.
Yeah. And so I think for, women listening today, like what are some things that I might not have brought up that you really want people to know about?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough is our diet. And I think that what we don't realize is the foods that we're eating are actually putting our bodies in inflammation and causing pain. So I don't think people tie those two together. I think they think that something physically happened to me and that's why I'm in pain, like a car accident or a sports injury or, the way I sleep or whatnot. Pain in the joints or back pain actually has a lot to do with number one, we mentioned it a lot this episode, but movement, how you're moving and what you're putting in your body and what you're eating. Because there is a lot of inflammatory foods right now that are causing a lot of pain in the body. So making sure that not only you're removing inflammatory foods in your diet, but you're also incorporating anti-inflammatory foods in the diet. So there are
Hmm.
things that, turmeric is a really, famous, root vegetable that actually does help with inflammation in the body. I one of my recommendations for my patients, I always tell them this, but I love juicing. And so I think that it's a really easy way to get all of those, not best tasting fruits and veggies in in your system. So I like to juice all my veggies and then I'll add a few fruits. But it's just a good way to get those foods in without having to necessarily, incorporating them in your dishes and things like that. So I
Mm,
think food is a really big one. We don't talk about it enough, but it does do a lot of damage to our joints and it can obviously increase inflammation in the body, which causes pain.
yeah, yeah. I think that makes so much sense. I think that for myself, like I used to try juicing and then I think I stopped. But I've been doing a lot of like bone broth soups and like a lot of these like Chinese soups that also help with like anti-inflammatory that I love. And sort of like I have it at dinner or like lunchtime and it just like feels, especially like as the weather is cold.
I'm really big on, and, I haven't, we studied a little bit in school, but of course we're heavy on the musculoskeletal system and the muscles and, the nervous system. But I have a really big passion for foods and things like that and how it's affecting our body and how we age. So I think it's really important because if you think about it, it's literally the one thing that we are consciously making a decision to put in our body and that actually goes into our system. And the American diet is terrible for there's so many people who are just in constant inflammation. And of course, there's normal inflammation in the body that is necessary, but I think that we are more so a over inflamed population than we should be. So I think diet is a really big topic that I think a lot of people need a lot of help with, along with movement.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, I think that and what I found was interesting was a lot of times when you think something is healthy, but actually it's not, and you're just like, just putting that into your body, thinking that it's good for you, and it's actually working against it, and then it's showing up in the body, and it's like the holistic thing, right? Is what you mentioned.
And it's so tied together. Like sometimes I'll get patients who come in who are in pain. And if I can't physically reproduce your pain, because that's one of the things in our assessment that we do is, you come in with, let's say, low back pain that's shooting down to your foot or down your leg. Well, my job is to actually recreate that symptom that you always feel with the orthopedic testing, the, range of motion analysis that we do. But there are some patients where I can't reproduce that pain no matter what I do. They're like, no, that doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt. So then I have to look in, okay, what's going on systemically that's causing that pain? And I don't think a lot of people understand or are educated on, your gut health can actually cause lower back pain. Organs that are diseased or that are, not functioning properly can show up as pain in the body. There's different types of like systemic arthritises that people think of arthritis and they're like old age or injury or whatnot. But no, there are a lot of conditions that systemically are causing inflammation in the joints that you might not know about. So that's why it's really important to, when you're going to see someone, to really get a proper assessment to so the person can understand what's happening, what is the diagnosis, and how can we approach it, and what other health professionals need to be involved to help treat the condition.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and really highlighting the holistic picture and for me, I think learning about whether it's just thinking about it from a pain angle, right? But knowing that it's so much more than that. It's diet, movement, your lifestyle. And thank you so much. So, for our listeners today, where can they find you?
So I am a lot of the time on Instagram. I love Instagram. So I'm at Dr. Dot Rebecca Hopkins on Instagram. Same thing with TikTok. I also do have a YouTube page that do more lifestyle and vlogging style content on there. And that's the same thing, Dr. Rebecca Hopkins. Yeah, that's where I'm at most of the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with us on the NOOCI Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd love your support. Leave us a rating, drop us a review, or share it with someone who'd enjoy it too. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.